The Mets finally get to roll out, well, hopefully what is going to be a product that's going to give you something to root for the entire season. And, amazingly, Tyler McGill is going to be the opening day starter.
That's right.
Yeah. So
after all of that,
after everything that went on this year, here's your opening day starter. Good for him. He had moments last year that were pretty good for the Mets, and hopefully tonight, he will have another great moment. As far as the Knicks were concerned last night, it's exactly what I did want to see. I wanted to see a lot of the young guys play, be in the mix, be in a tough game against a very good opponent, especially when they ratcheted up their defense that you saw at the end of the third quarter and at the end of the fourth quarter. The big problem for the Knicks, they missed 15 free throws. 15! This is an NBA team. And R.J. Barrett's free throw shooting last night was horrific.
Yeah, really.
Absolutely horrific.
Discouraging.
And it was, they could have easily won the game. Just make your free throws. It's as simple as that.
They were up 20. They could have, easily won the game if they did anything right in the second half, and they couldn't score. It was a complete and utter collapse.
Well, and of course, Kevin Durant takes over the game in the second half, and stealing the ball, rebounding, hitting threes. He was everything that the Mecca of basketball is used to, and that's a visiting player going off, especially in the second half, leading his team to victory. And there were times where, the Knicks played really tough defense, and they couldn't get a defensive rebound. The ball kept bounding out to the Nets, and they would have a reset of the shot clock, and then they would have another opportunity to drop a three. And then there were a couple threes that were hit, one by Patty Mills that was hit at the end, and he was 3 feet from the three-point line. And he bombs one in, and that was kind of the dagger shot, if you ask me. But it was it's probably is what I expected and what most of us should expect with young guys going against, the seasoned veterans and the guys.
Listen, man, they couldn't have played any better in the first half, and then they were completely terrible. And we've seen this all year from this team.
Flat, but they were flat. The Nets were flat in the first half.
Yeah, but you're just dominating in this game. How many third quarters have we seen this year that were exactly like that? Where it's like they're just standing still, they're completely lost coming out of halftime. I don't understand. That's got to be partly on the coach this entire year that the third quarters have been just trash. So whatever. You move on from that. I wanted to win. I didn't get it. You saw both of what the Nets can be. A team that doesn't play any defense and looks completely confused for a half. And then also two superstars doing what they do, especially Kevin Durant in the second half and blowing by an inferior opponent. So you saw both of the versions of the Brooklyn Nets. It's just a matter of which one wants to show up in the playoffs. But
just make your foul shots if you're the Knicks, honestly.
Yeah, well,
they missed 15 free throws. They went to the line 36 times.
Pathetic.
Think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
They went to the line 36 times, almost, I think, double of what the Nets did. And, because the Nets are such an outside team, and they throw up threes, constantly. But at least I will say, Jericho Sims, there are times where he looks like something. There's times where Obi Toppin looks like something. RJ has been great, but he can't make his free throws. And, and again, it was a test again for Emmanuel Quickly, and Alec Burks is not the guy. How many times is he going to have the ball taken away from him, whether it be Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving in key spots? And there were times where he played well, but, look, this is a young team, and these are the guys that I want to see playing. It's not like I expected them to win last night. I was actually shocked at halftime.
Yeah, when they were blowing by him. Did you watch any of that 75th anniversary broadcast last night?
I did watch a little bit of it, and I didn't like it. And, well, it's not that I didn't like it. I appreciated the nostalgia of it, and I appreciated, listening to Mike Breen kind of navigate through all of that, because that couldn't be easy for him as he's normally doing a game. But the thing about watching, the part that I watched, was I realized that they weren't even talking about the game.
No, not at all. It was just interview after interview after interview.
Right, so I wanted
on crappy Zooms.
So, it was nice to hear Ian on MSG last night.
Yeah, you had that. The game was on 20 different places. You had it on MSG. You had it on Yes. You had it on ESPN. You had ESPN2. You could listen to it here. It was everywhere. The game was on. You would have thought that this was the two best teams in the league that were playing last night in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. It was on so many places. But Bill Walton, did you catch that? They put Bill Walton on a Zoom. He had his Grateful Dead thing behind him. He had a Grateful Dead shirt on. They just said, "Hey, Bill, welcome to the broadcast," and he spoke for like basically 8 minutes straight, and Mike Breen was just sitting there laughing, and he goes, "I don't know how to make you stop. I don't know how to make you stop talking."
I had the same experience with Bill Walton not too long ago on Game Time. I asked him a question, and he just went on for like 20 minutes, and I was like, okay, thanks for joining us.
It's crazy.
He just, I don't know if he does it on purpose. I'm assuming he does. I think he's got to realize what he does and how difficult he makes it for anybody that's.
I don't think he realizes. I don't think he cares. I just think he does it.
Yeah, I don't think he cares either. But I know. But to me,
smoking weed.
Right.
Yeah,
so I went. I was going back and forth, and I obviously we love Mike Breen around here, and but it was great. Listening to Ian and Clyde was great.
Ian wasn't with Clyde.
I mean, who was Ian with? Ian's with.
He does the Nets broadcast with Sarah Kustok.
But who was on MSG then?
That was Evan Cohen.
Oh, that was Evan Cohen. Okay, well, then he was with Clyde. They were fine.
Yeah. Right. No, Ian does not work for MSG.
I thought I heard Ian. They sound the same then. Do they sound the same?
Ed Cohen, not Evan Cohen. Evan Cohen's a different guy. Ed Cohen and Clyde last night. I don't know. He does that classic broadcaster voice, I guess.
Ed Cohen. There was one shot that I think Obi Toppin had, and it was hanging on the rim, and I heard "hanging Chad." Oh, and I'm like, okay,
wow,
that sounded like Ian to me. I don't know, they sound very similar.
Yeah,
it was all over the place.
Yeah, I told you it was on 50 different networks last night. It's very easy to get confused.
But I do know the simple answer to all of it is just making free throws. That's all I can tell you. They missed, like I said, 15 free throws, man.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
This season now, after this little burst last night, a lot of Knicks fans wanted to see the Knicks beat the Nets. Didn't happen, and now you move on and you forget about everything that happened this season and head into the offseason where you hope that things can change. And we sit here and we'll root against the Nets. Hopefully they get the Celtics in the first round after the play-in situation, and the Celtics have beaten them pretty soundly throughout the year. So that's what I'm rooting for at this point. We can get them out sooner than later. But it's time to get excited about opening day and this Mets team that we're going to see for the first time. Now, it kind of does take a little bit out of it. I'm sorry not to start negatively, but it takes a little bit out of it that you don't have Jacob deGrom on the mound and you don't have Max Scherzer on the mound. Now, you'll see Max on Friday, most likely, if he gets through this little test that he's going to have today about trying to cover first base or whatever it is. But he should be pitching on Friday, and you get Tyler McGill, which is a cool thing for him. And I saw his wife would put some stuff out on social media. Who would have thought that, Tyler McGill would have been starting here, and this is a cool thing for them, whatever. But it does take a little bit of juice out of it that these two guys that we've talked so much about in the offseason, neither one of them is pitching in the first game of the season. But I still think that the Mets are in a really, really good place. I'm excited that Buck Showalter is the manager. I'm excited with the upgrades that they made to the lineup, and they've got to make the playoffs. I mean, we've talked so much about other teams spending money. The Mets went out there, did exactly what we wanted them to do, have a payroll that is right there with the big boys. It was always what we asked. Be right there. Be a big market team. They did it. Now that needs to translate into wins, and it needs to translate into a postseason appearance, and one where you're not out in a wild card situation, one that gets you to at least the NLCS. That, to me, is the goal this year.
Yeah, well, assuming Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom, come back and they're fine.
Yeah, I mean, that is a big assumption when you're talking about Jacob deGrom and the issues that he's had. But
I hate to say what I'm thinking about, but, the big three played, 16 games for the Nets? Or 18 games or something?
Somewhere in there, you're talking about, Harden, Kyrie, and KD. Yeah, yes. Somewhere in there. Might have been even less than that, yeah.
I'd like to think, how many rotations will Scherzer and deGrom
how many combined starts, how about?
Yeah, combined starts or rotations that they'll go through where they're actually 1 and 2 and over the life of Scherzer's contract, because I'm assuming that Jacob deGrom will get a new contract and he will stay with the Mets regardless of his injuries the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I felt better about the injury once you talked to me about it, actually.
Yeah, this injury is not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he's going to get Tommy John or it's a rotator cuff situation or the thing that Matt Harvey went through with the thoracic outlet syndrome or anything like that. Doesn't seem like anything like that.
It's not.
So you get some rest. You'll get back. You'll be all right. You'll be there for the important times. I mean, even though there's a bunch of fanfare around opening day, the real important times are later in the season, trying to secure those playoff spots, getting into the postseason, and pitching in the postseason.
Right. And for the Yankees, it's whether or not Aaron Judge will sign a contract before tomorrow.
Yeah, and there really hasn't been much talk about it. So I've seen from a news standpoint, it sounds like it's been very quiet. So hopefully these two sides are hammering something out. Because if they head into this thing, and of course, opening day for them will be Friday now, which is supposed to be a beautiful day as it gets postponed. We found out yesterday on the air. Hopefully, we get to a point where that's not something that is hanging over the Yankees' entire season, because it could be. I mean, if he doesn't have a contract heading into the season and he says he's not going to negotiate, which I understand is trying to create leverage on his end, and maybe that changes. Maybe he says, all right, we'll move that date to like May 1st or something. But that's something that people are going to be talking about the entire year, because once the season ends, bang, we're talking about him being available.
He could be traded at the trading deadline.
Oh, don't even go there.
That's why I believe they'll sign him a contract.
I don't think they're trading him.
I'm pretty bullish on it, actually.
You think that they're going to sign him?
I think that they'll get it done. I really do.
No, I agree. It would be shocking to me if Aaron Judge went anywhere else and put on any other uniform. And I know that he's had fallen short of superstardom in some of these years because of injuries, but he's still a guy that's got, over the next 5 years, if he adds to what he's already done, monument potential.
I think he's been with the Yankees, I want to say 6 years right now, and he's made a total of $17 million.
Which is insane.
And last year was 10 of that $17 million came in last year's contract.
Yeah.
So this year, the Yankees are offering $17 million. He wants $21 million, and it's kind of contentious when you think about it. That's a $4 million difference. That's a big difference.
Sure.
And, Aaron Judge has been here for 6 years. Now, the question is, like in typical Yankee fashion, they went out and got Stanton. They went out and got Garrett Cole. They spent all this money on somebody else's guys, which is fine. They're great baseball players, and you want to spend the money, that's great. And if you're Aaron Judge and you're sitting there, I know personally how excited you would be to sign a contract to stay here. I also know that all you have to do is use those two guys' contracts and say, hey, look, man, you went out and got somebody else. I've been here since the beginning, since, you drafted me. I know that he's going to want a 7, 8, 9-year deal. But if you're the Yankees, you can't give him that. You got to keep it around 6. I think you got to keep it around 6. And then for Judge to understand that if he doesn't sign now, what is it going to take to make up what he's missing out on? And it's the same thing with Juan Soto.
Sure. I mean, and if you're someone like Aaron Judge, you have to be thinking about all the injuries that you've had in your career and how a significant amount of guaranteed money for you over 6 years is something that you shouldn't be messing around with.
And by the way, we don't know what the Yankees are offering. We're just kind of speculating as to what they're offering. Speaking of guys getting new contracts, we see with Steph Diggs now becomes a $100 millionaire.
Yeah, no, it happened on the show yesterday.
Right, yeah, exactly. But the point being is that now wide receivers are still in play. There are 4 wide receivers that are still in play. And they and their agents are seeing all these other wide receivers get the job, get the contracts. And, they are all sitting there waiting for something to happen. Something's going to have to happen with all 4 of them. Meaning either they get traded or they get re-signed.
I hope one of them ends up on the Jets, because that would be exciting.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.